Hello everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album by the legendary thrash band Testament with Bellum. Testament are back with a brand new record. I remember when this first single came out. Didn't get to listen to it unfortunately, but I knew of its existence. Infanticide AI is the song, and this one kicked ass. I didn't listen to it as a single, but I can tell you for a fact it kicks ass. Shadow People, I think, was another single. Didn't listen to that one, but I can tell you the fact it kicked ass. Now, if you're interested in my whole opinion, every song kicked ass. This is a thrash metal album that just doesn't give a shit what the limitations are. You can do something that sounds similar to your old stuff, that's fine. But I feel like Testament do a perfect example of don't fix what's not broken, but at the same time you just evolve from it and just keep the energy, the excitement, the engagement going with an album that just downright clears some of the last few albums they've dropped. Matter of fact, Testament, I don't really recall them dropping a bad album whatsoever in their career. They might have had one or two, but personally to me, I feel like Testament has kind of stuck to their roots quite traditionally when it comes to thrash. Some bands will experiment, and you'll notice some thrash bands will sometimes drop a pretty weak record. I mean, we've had Metallica's drop some of the worst stuff like Saint Anger, so it's not always going to be absolute bangers and gems there. But Bellum is actually probably one of the newer cases of a concrete listen that I absolutely am hooked onto it. The amount of great ideas when it comes to guitars, which I will say is easily the highlight. Some of the best thrash metal guitar work of the year. Some just insane riffs. Like the singles already give you a straight example of how insanely good and talented this band is, and you get literally blown away for the first 5 minutes of For the Love of Pain. It is just such an amazing album opener that just melts your face off of just how awesome it is. Chuck Billy's vocals still sound impressive, and we know for the fact that some bands that are going from 80s to now will sometimes struggle with vocals, and sometimes 70s as well. Axl Rose, for example. But Testament feels like they're just keeping the freshness of what worked when they were starting off and bringing it to this. There is not really any song I dislike. I like the fact that they experiment here with Meant to Be kind of being more of a ballady song, a softer one. It's a nice bit of variety, and you still get the Testament feel to it. Then it hits you like a freight truck with High Noon. That is just fucking incredible. There's nothing I change on this album, to be honest. And I was not expecting thrash metal to be probably one of the highlights of 2025. We've had some good metal albums for sure, but a lot of the most promising ones like Dream Theater, Parasomnia hasn't really clicked with me, and it hasn't really been a thrash metal album this year that I've been absolutely enjoying as much as Bellum, to be honest. So Testament, when it comes to thrash metal gods, the thrash metal kings of the year, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to this new album for that title, to be honest. There is just so much joy when it comes to this, and even with some of the kind of longer tracks, like I said, Meant to Be, it doesn't even drag on as well. It feels like it just creates the perfect sound and just doesn't feel like it's overdoing or just extending what doesn't need to be there. It tells the story perfectly, then drives straight into High Noon, and it just keeps going on with amazing songs. There's a lot of good thrash metal bands out there, and some of them never even get exposed. So the fact that Testament has is very good in my opinion. I don't want to glaze the over shit out of this album as much as I am, but I do generally think this is one of the best thrash metal albums we've had in quite a while. Definitely up there with other stuff I've enjoyed, like Atrophy, which has been really good last year. I talked about that one. And another pretty good one has been King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Petrodragonic Apocalypse. For example, bands that don't really release much of thrash metal, and Atrophy, while they kind of do, they just don't really release at all. But for one of the kind of bigger thrash metal names, yeah, Testament's there. And I haven't really been big on some of the other ones lately. Megadeth could be exciting for next year, but we'll have to see if Self-Titled is truly a nice send-off, especially when they have just such amazing albums like Rust in Peace. So we'll have to see about that. But no, instrumentals kick ass. The drumming is very tight. The production sounds great. This generally just feels like something you couldn't see coming out of the 80s and 90s, and it just still feels as refreshing as it does now. But this is a modern album. Sure, it's not going to be the magnum opus. I still feel like they've outdone this before, and I feel like if they really wanted to kind of do something that matched the quality of that, they could outdo Bellum. But as where we are, I'm very happy with the record. Very good album, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So I hope you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next video.